I get asked in a lot of comments what I think about the idea of NPCs. What the flip does NPC mean? NPC is short for non-playable character. Here's the question, do they really exist? How do you know if someone is an NPC? Am I an NPC? Or am I the only one exists and everyone else is an NPC? It would certainly explain the success of James Corden. Tell you what, let's start with what an NPC is. Then I'll tell you exactly what I think and know about the idea of non-playable characters. What are NPCs? They are the non-playable characters in video games. They're basically any character that is not controlled by you. Maybe they're the shopkeeper or the character in the cutscenes. They look and sound like a real character, but they have set responses, or a script, if you will, that drive the main character's plot forwards. Could it be that these non-player characters exist in our real world, walking among us, going out and about without a thought in their head, merely artificially intelligent flesh robots? Be prepared to be more disturbed than when you first found out where babies come from. NPCs started as a meme to categorise a certain group of people as unthinking non-players, using this image of a robotic looking person. And Twitter actually banned anyone using this meme in the most NPC move possible. I actually got banned from Twitter, for saying that the past tense of a tweet is a twat. Mind you, it's more lenient than Facebook jail because Twitter gives out shorter sentences. One day, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook will probably merge. It'll be called You Twat Face. In The Matrix, Agent Smith's job was to round up any rogue programs, i.e. people that woke up out of the program realising that it was a simulation. As Morpheus says, the other players inside the Matrix are real, they just haven't woken up yet. Another movie that isn't out yet, called Free Guy, follows a similar but updated concept.
This world, it's a video game.
The main guy, played by Ryan Reynolds, is literally an NPC.
Listen to me, you're not real.
And he realises this. He's shown that life, or his world, is actually a giant video game.
Millie, I know this world is just a game.
Where have I heard that before? But what are the characteristics of an NPC? Can we tell them apart from normal players? How do you know that you're not one? What about Westworld, a HBO/Sky TV series? Westworld is a giant open world western game, bit like Red Dead Redemption, populated by robots that think they're living out their real life. Their lines are scripted. One of the main reasons people think NPCs could live among us is the discovery that some people have no inner monologue. You know, that voice that talks to you during the day, that chatter in the skull that starts the moment you wake up. Researchers found out that actually 5 out of the 30 test subjects had no inner monologue, which if you extrapolate that out to the entire population, then works out to be about 17%. Which we shouldn't, because 30 scientific subjects is nothing. Could just have so happened to pull in 5 psychopaths. But this is the question it raises. If they have no inner monologue, do they have a mind? What the hell goes on in there? So you mean to say that they don't have that chattering in the skull that keeps you up at night? Are they simply robots living among us? If so, why and where did they come from? And why are they here? NPCs may appear real, but they could simply be a machine, artificial intelligence, with set responses that mimics a real human being. This is the part where I tell you that the idea of NPCs is bullshit. Sorry. Now I've got you thinking about it all, haven't I? And got you all excited. I'm going to burst your bubble harder than a Nazi Zeppelin. Unfortunately, I've not seen, heard or found any compelling evidence whatsoever to point to NPCs being real. This is the problem. There is no evidence for people being NPCs. Not one shred of scientific evidence. It's a nice idea, but that's all it really is. The fact that some people don't have an inner monologue is just a quirk of the human mind. But to say that they aren't human is just plain inaccurate. Just because you want something to be real doesn't make it so. Just because you like the idea doesn't make it true. Technically, everyone is an NPC to you because they're not playable by you. You are the only one who is playable by you. But that doesn't mean they're NPCs in the way that they're robotic, non-thinking entities, that they are expendable in some way. But how does this relate to the simulation theory? If you think about single-player games like Red Dead Redemption, you control the main character. All the other characters in the story are NPCs. What's more popular today? Single-player games or multiplayer games? Multiplayer games. Why? Because they're more fun when you know you're going up against other real people. It's more challenging and more rewarding. Each person exists in the game, fighting alongside or against each other in massive maps. I think we're all main characters in this game. Occasionally, we'll play a role in someone else's game, giving them a bit of script that inspires them to go on to do something. But that doesn't mean that we're not real. It's more complicated than that. and it's hard for you to wrap your head around the complexity of this giant computer game. That's why the NPC meme caught on. Again, it's an easy answer to a complex problem. People today are lazy. I mean, if you've got any evidence that isn't anecdotal, then I'd love to hear it. Our world could be a simulated reality, kind of like the Matrix, but more, in my opinion, akin to a giant multiplayer video game. Do NPCs exist in multiplayer games? No, because they don't need to. I know a lot of you would like to think it's true, but that's just a question of laziness on your part. Lazy! This simulation could have been specifically set up for billions of individual parts of one consciousness that we call God to experience itself subjectively in this virtual, holographic, simulation, multiplayer video game. To log into an avatar and play the game, aka a lifetime. Interacting with each other increases the quality of the game, just like a multiplayer game. The NPC idea could be dangerous, for it could be an excuse to neglect empathy. But there are no NPCs, just people. People on a different path to you. Treat them with kindness and sympathy wherever you can, and treat them as you would like to be treated. This will give you more points when you finish the game, and you won't need to keep coming back in multiple incarnations, because you need more points, if the simulation theory is true, which it is. There are no NPCs in the way that you think there are. It's lazy thinking, just people that either think differently from you or are very normal, thus giving the impression that they are not actively participating, or they're young and or impressionable, and make it seem like they don't have a mind of their own, but they do. It doesn't mean that they're not an active participant in this game that we call life. Life is a multiplayer video game. We are each players in each other's game, like actors in each other's plays. No one takes precedent or is more important than someone else. We could do, I think, with learning to care a bit more for our fellow humans, whatever they choose to think at this moment, and know that a little bit more care and love in the world is no bad thing.